Hello guys and welcome to another episode of the JRE Review. I am reviewing Hotep Jesus, or Hotep Jesus. It's Jesus, but whatever you want to call it. Podcast number 1318. Now, Hotep, or however you quite say the first name, is an interesting character. He's a social media guy, big on Twitter. You may have heard of him from the video he did where he went into a Starbucks and he demanded for a free coffee because he said that he'd heard that Starbucks was racist. It's a very funny video, and it's even more hilarious that he got a free coffee out of it, but fair play to him. It was an interesting conversation and an interesting dude, so let's get this started. Right out of the gate, he hits Joe with something quite interesting. So he is doing what he's done well with lots of different things, like different businesses. He's worked with 50 Cent. He does cryptocurrency stuff, so he's got money there. He's just successful in different areas, but also does well with social media things. Yet he says he doesn't like social media. He especially doesn't like Instagram. He says Instagram's not built well, right? He does like Twitter, though, and he uses that a lot. He says it's a better way to get your message across. I find that interesting because I don't use social media platforms probably anywhere in the way that he does. For me, it's just a little bit of fun, and you can search for things and get information. But when you are, I guess, an influencer of sorts, you want to get your message across concisely and for things not to be construed or taken in different ways and so on. And I think the point he was making about Twitter is that each thing that you tweet is kind of its own body of conversation, right? You can say something political, and next you can say, some fart joke that you thought of. Whereas I guess Instagram just kind of lines up all your pictures. You see one, you go to their account, you can see kind of all of them in a line, and it kind of changes the message somehow. So he's not happy about that. He doesn't really care about that in that way. And it's interesting to look at how the progression of social media has been. In a sense, I guess, really the first thing on the internet was AOL chat rooms. That was probably like the first similar thing with a lot of members, a lot of people talking to each other and making things happen. And then the next real big one is probably got to be MySpace. And everyone was on that for a while. It seemed like this is going to be the and-all, be-all, it-all of communicating. It was like, how many friends do you have? What are your pictures? What's your setup? Blah, blah, blah. It was huge. And in fact, I remember being in college one day. I was in a computer class, and we were working on something, PowerPoint or something like that we were learning. And the girl next to me had a blue page open, and she was on this thing called Facebook. And I think then it was called The Facebook or something, a little different. But anyway, she was using it, and I asked her what it was, and she said, oh, it's a bit like MySpace, but it's newer, and blah, blah, blah. It's like a different thing. And I just thought to myself, oh, well, we already have MySpace. It's not going to catch on. Why would that matter? But then, out of nowhere, MySpace just kind of slipped away. It disappeared. Everyone was on it, and then suddenly no one is. And I guess it's still around. Joe was saying that I guess they use it for music now, some sort of music. So I should look. I don't know. I haven't. But it's weird how things change. Even now we have Facebook, and you can see that slipping out. Like, people aren't using that as much. People don't give a shit about that anymore. I can't remember the last time I looked at mine. Joe was talking about all of the restrictions and kind of self-policing that the social media areas and even YouTube and other platforms are doing, where they're kind of deplatforming people. And Joe was saying that he thought about creating his own platform, right, because of all this. And even Alex Jones being deplatformed, that was actually Joe's biggest podcast ever. I think the first time Alex was on was the biggest one he had done as well. And YouTube didn't even demonetize it, which is really interesting. Because I guess Joe said that he warned them first. And he was talking to Hotep about that, saying, yeah, I let YouTube know that Alex Jones was coming on, so at least they knew. But yeah, with all that censorship, I guess, what would it take for Joe to create his own platform, or could somebody do it? One idea he had was buying Vimeo, which is like the crappy version of YouTube, and maybe boostering it that, but I guess no one's quite sure how to do it. Jamie had some ideas on this podcast, which I thought was interesting. I guess there's new ways to kind of upload MP3s or get them, online in certain ways, but, people need to work on it. Hotep's kind of said some controversial stuff a little bit. Like, he was kind of saying some sexist shit for a minute. But fuck me, does he own it? Like, he stands by what he says. He wasn't confusing himself, at least, even though I was getting a bit standoffish with it. I was like, okay, whoa. But one thing he said is he really had no apologies. And he said women need to control their emotions. So I'm like, okay, well, I think everyone needs to learn to control their emotions. But in a sense, yeah, I guess I agree. He's kind of a spiritual guy, talks a little bit about meditation. He studied some of the kind of ancient philosophers, and he brings this like belief of manifestation kind of forward with him. He talked a little bit like the universe provides type of talk that Joe wasn't really buying, but I think it was just a vocab issue, it's almost like The Secret, you just believe it and it exists. But what he's saying is it was a combination, and that's really what Joe kind of pulled out of him. It's a combination of things. It's The Secret plus hard work, which I like a lot, and I see it with different people. I mean, especially because I, dabble in a little bit of stand-up comedy, and whenever I talk to somebody that also wants to do it, I'll give them the opportunity. I'll say, hey, why didn't you come to the open mic with me? I'll even help you write something. Now, I think that is the manifestation of the thing that the person says that they want. It just got manifested. They said that they were into it. I gave them the opportunity to come with me. That's their in. Now, the hard work is writing the bit and performing it. And that's where most people drop the ball. So I do agree in that sense. Like, if you really want to do something, even a very difficult thing, if you position yourself to where you have access to it, a lot of times the door will open. But just because the door's open, it doesn't mean that you're going to be able to get that job or get that whatever. It's like, okay, you got the interview. Now, are you prepared? Have you trained? Are you ready? Are you professional enough? Are you going to nail this? And that's kind of what I took out of it, which I liked. But, he also said that the universe will only give you something that you're brave enough to do, or that you're capable of doing. Because he said that's like what you're looking at. That's your direction. I found that really fascinating as well, because I think I do agree with that. I think anything beyond your means you won't even consider. But if you're close to it, and you're like, yeah, I am close to it. I think I can do this. I think that I could make that happen. Then, you're ready to do it. I don't know. Does that make sense? I don't think that did. I apologize. But yeah, it's like that task. Plenty of times things have come up to me that I've wanted to do. I had an opportunity at the Comedy Store not that long ago to email a guy that produces a show and get on that show. And when I was ready to send the email, I kind of felt like I wasn't ready, or I had some doubt, and I didn't know if I wanted to reach out and then, have him either say yes or no. There was just some fear factors in there. So in a sense, it was like, yeah, that was manifested. It was created in front of me, but I dropped the ball for that reason. And it's something that I thought long and hard about. Like, why did I do that? And why did that happen? And X, Y, and Z. Towards the end of that conversation, he jumps on to kind of like the history of the world, mankind. He doesn't really believe in history as we know it. He thinks a lot of it's fake. He only believes what he's like researched, which I think is quite fascinating. Kind of like Eddie Bravo logic, in a sense. Not that he's a flat earther, but one thing he said is he didn't believe that black people were brought here on slave ships. He didn't believe that. He didn't think that they came from Africa. He thinks that they were already in America and then we used them here. And he kept making that point. Why would you bring people from a long way away that could die when there's people already here? It's like a bad business model. And it's kind of logic, but it's logical, but I think that it's pretty well documented how many people were brought over and that it happened, and that it was pretty awful. I kind of found it a little difficult to follow some of his logic on that point. He was kind of losing me there. But either way, I mean, he's an interesting dude. I would like to know a little bit more about him. Obviously, Joe is a fan of some of his stuff, though didn't mind pressing him on some issues that didn't make a ton of sense. And yeah, that was it. Check it out. See what you think. Let me know. Message me. Again, all my links are in the bio for wherever you download this podcast. And follow me on Instagram, Joe Rogan, Experience Review. You can message me there. Thanks as always for listening. Appreciate you guys. Have a great day.